Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you?
I'm no one. There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
May the Force be with us.
My nerd road.
Just let it in.
Ujaba. Why does she get a blaster and I don't? Ujaba.
So that later in the movie, she can give you that blaster, right? That's the whole point. It reminds me, too, that many people made a big deal, and rightfully so, at the beginning of Rogue One, when Cassian Andor kills the informant, right? And many people have talked about the fact that Cassian Andor killing that informant really set the stage for his character, and knowing that this was a guy who was willing to do dark deeds, if you will, in service of the rebellion. But the real sort of story-driven factor is that it lets you buy into the fact that he could potentially, spoiler alert, kill Galen Erso on Edu later in the film. And I didn't pick up on this until after a couple of viewings. I've now seen the movie 5 times, but that being Rogue One. But I realized that the scene on Edu when he almost assassinates Galen Erso while he's having the conversation with Director Krennic really is way more impactful, given the fact that we know that he's willing to kill for the rebellion. It's episode number 71 of the My Nerd World Star Wars podcast. I am your host, John Justice. You're getting this one a bit early because I was inspired. It's the new year, and depending on when this goes up, it may, be the 2nd or 3rd of January, but it is New Year's Day, and I've got one more day left of vacation. Thought, now's a good time to record episode number 72 of the podcast. I've got some things that I want to cover, and I have an email that I unfortunately missed on the last podcast. It was pretty full already with the conversation that I had with producer Sam. But a friend of the show, Tony J, had emailed to talkshownerd@gmail.com. And I felt bad that I hadn't had a chance to address what he wrote, and I wanted to make sure I got it covered on the podcast, and so I really didn't want to wait. One of the other reasons, too, why I wanted to get the podcast done or do the podcast early, is because I watched The Force Awakens over the weekend, over the course of the past few days. It's the first time I've watched it since seeing Rogue One, and I've got a much different perspective on Rogue One, its relationship to The Force Awakens, and what I firmly believe Disney needs to do. But what I thought I would do to start the podcast off today is talk a little bit about 2017 and what we can expect moving forward, looking at the months ahead in terms of Star Wars, and specifically what I am really looking forward to in this new year. And again, I'll talk a bit about my first watch of The Force Awakens since seeing Rogue One. I've seen it now 5 times. And then I'll address this email, this lengthy email where Tony lays out a couple of different items that he wanted to share and for me to respond to. So let's get right into it. It is a brand new year. We're coming off another Star Wars movie again. This is going to essentially be the way things are moving forward. If Disney sticks with having December release Star Wars movies, you can pretty much rest assured that we are going to have this type of cycle playing out. I'm sure we'll get variances in how it relates to when information gets out and how it's leaked. We're already seeing that. By this time in the Force Awakens game, we had already seen a trailer and some images apart from that, from The Force Awakens, and so far we have pretty much nothing from Episode 8, but I do expect that that's going to change fairly soon. So let me kind of run in order of what we have coming up in the next couple of months. I think first and foremost, and this is going to be sticking strictly to the visual aspect. I'm not going to be talking about books or comic books. I'm strictly going to stick to movies and cartoons, which basically brings me to Rebels. Coming up next weekend, we get the return of Rebels after sort of the mid-season finale for Season 3, I guess. And we know we're going to see some direct connections to Rogue One with Saw Gerrera, which is going to be very interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to. But the crew of the Ghost is going to be traveling to Geonosis, which, of course, and this is something that a friend of the show, Tony, brings up in the email, is, of course, the sort of the starting point of the Death Star. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where Rogue One goes. I want to see more of that common storyline play out, not so many of the spin-off separate shows. I want that confrontation that it looks like we're going to get with Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Want to see where Ezra's heading, and again, these tie-ins to Rogue One. So that's kind of the first thing on the calendar that we're looking forward to, and then the continuing of the Rebels series. We can expect the Rogue One Blu-ray probably to hit somewhere around April. That was when The Force Awakens was released. Disney seems to be keeping on that timeline. And I firmly believe that when the Rogue One Blu-ray DVD streaming hits, that will essentially be the official end to Rogue One, obviously, and the immediate start of the hype around Episode 8. Now, I don't want to get to that just yet. But I do believe that that's kind of where this is heading. I think Disney's looking at the release of Rogue One sort of twofold. The lead up to the film being in the theaters, the film leaving theaters, Rebels kind of picking up the slack and tying in a bit of that universe into Rogue One, and then that would lead into the Blu-ray release. So I guess I wouldn't be too surprised if we got a title at some point of Episode 8 between now and when the Rogue One Blu-ray comes out to kind of bring the hype machine spinning up. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that we don't have a title yet. This is certainly different than what they were doing for The Force Awakens. Not to be unexpected. This is kind of expected. I mean, The Force Awakens was a bit of a different beast in terms of, for those of us that are hardcore fans and for everybody that's just a even casual Star Wars fan, we didn't anticipate that we were going to get Star Wars movies. And so they started the promotion of The Force Awakens pretty early on, and we got a title pretty early on. So I am a bit surprised, and wouldn't be surprised if Disney decided to release the title of the movie while Rogue One was still in theaters, just to gin up a little bit more hype. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I would do if I found out what the title of Episode 8 was going to be. It would inspire me to want to go out and see. Oh, I want to go see Rogue One again, just because that's how I am, and I think that's how a lot of fans are. But getting back to what we're looking forward to, we have the Rogue One Blu-ray release, and then we've got Celebration, the big convention taking place. Last year it was in Europe. A year before that it was in Anaheim. I went to that event. This year, now that we're in January, now that we're in 2017, it's going to be in Orlando. And the big speculation is that that's when the trailer is going to drop. We'll be at Celebration in Orlando, and I believe that's in April. Yeah, looking here online, Star Wars Celebration in Orlando is April 13th through the 16th. And I saw on StarWarsNews.net, they did have a Blu-ray release date for Rogue One. And I think it was overseas, but it was like April 28th, if I'm not mistaken. I would imagine that Rogue One would be coming out well before Star Wars Celebration did, if they're planning on dropping the trailer at Celebration, which I firmly believe that they're going to do. I would think that the the excitement and the promotion around Rogue One would be over with the release of the Blu-ray before this event, and then immediately we would end up getting the hype around Episode 8. Now, you got to go back and look at Force Awakens, and that's kind of how things played out as it relates to The Force Awakens. I mean, we got a trailer fairly early on after the release of Force Awakens, and I'm pretty sure that we got that trailer even before the Blu-ray came out, didn't we? Because I think I was surprised they didn't have the trailer on the Blu-ray. I'd have to go. Let me do it. Hold on one second. Okay, so let's say that they follow the same model with Rogue One, with Episode 8 as it related to The Force Awakens. So, and I was right. The teaser trailer for Rogue One came out on April 7th, and it was like a week later that we ended up getting the Blu-ray for The Force Awakens. Okay, so we ended up getting the fuller trailer. There was the July Comic-Con event where they did the behind-the-scenes video, and then October we ended up getting the full trailer, and then the trailer started coming out more and more often after that. So, again, following the same lines, backing up just a bit, I would expect we get a title fairly soon for Episode 8. And then probably a teaser trailer right around the beginning of April, right before the Blu-ray release, but before Star Wars Celebration. Unless that's what they wait for. Maybe they go reverse. Maybe those dates are so close, which probably makes more sense. We'll probably end up getting the Blu-ray release in early April for Rogue One, ending that officially, and then we end up getting a teaser trailer, something a little bit along the same lines, because that first trailer was about 2 minutes, I think, for Rogue One. That first teaser trailer was pretty long. It wasn't the 88 seconds that we got for that teaser trailer that was delivered in 2014 of November 2014, right, for The Force Awakens. So that makes sense. So, I mean, really, when you think about it, we're just a couple of months out from the Episode 8 hype train to really get a rolling. Which brings me to my first watch of The Force Awakens since Rogue One. And I have come to at least in my mind for now, as definitive as it can be, opinion of what Disney needs to do moving forward as they make movies. Kathleen Kennedy had come out and was very vocal about how, Rogue One was going to be the big experiment, and that it would be largely determining, is that right? Determining? It would be determined after the release of Rogue One and its success, just where the Star Wars movies went, where the spin-off films went, what kind of, will we still get Saga Films? And after watching The Force Awakens last week, I loved Rogue One, but still not nearly as much as I loved The Force Awakens. And it really comes down to the mythology. That's what I really zeroed in on. Watching Rey's journey, knowing that there is that thread of the Skywalker legacy, and not even so much, Han and Leia. And obviously this is changing now with the untimely passing of Carrie Fisher. But it really is these new characters. For me personally, I do want Rey to be related to either Kenobi or a Skywalker in some way. I don't want her to be somebody new that we haven't met yet, her parents, that is. But even if they are, I think we need that common thread to continue in these saga films. Watching The Force Awakens, seeing her journey, hearing that John Williams score, knowing that we're on this path, knowing that Luke Skywalker is going to get wrapped up in this, knowing how it all ties into everything that happened in the past. It's a much, much different type of storytelling than what we got with Rogue One. So I watched The Force Awakens and then I watched Rogue One again. It didn't change my enjoyment. My enjoyment of The Force Awakens actually increased, if you can believe that, after seeing Rogue One 4 times. And watching Rogue One again, I still liked it as much as I did before, but it also now felt